Hey, well, welcome back to UFOs Above Us. All right, today is May 27th, 2021, and we're going to look at a couple of objects I saw in the clouds today. And it all started with this unusual V that kind of projected out of the top of a bellowing cloud. Here's a close up of it. So this thing kind of shot out of the cloud, and then within a minute or two, this object appeared in that same cloud. And I'm going to show it to you first, but the main thing we're going to look at is actually what I thought was a bird, but it was acting strangely, and we'll take a lot of looks at several pictures of it. But let's do this first. So after that V disappeared, I see this object, and interestingly enough, it kind of looked like a V. But as I zoomed in, I thought, wait a minute. So that's not just your typical V-shaped wing pattern on a bird. Look at that. It almost looks more like an X with a, I don't know, a cone, a football, a orb, whatever that is. So, I don't know what this is, and granted, the shot's a little bit blurry, so I'm not getting really sharp focus on this one. It was the first image I captured, and I just finished doing the thing that I do to prepare to look for these objects in the sky, and so I wasn't really focusing on the camera yet. But it showed up so quickly after that V that I snapped some shots of it. The main thing we're going to look at right here. And at first glance, I thought it was just a bird, but there was just something about it. And have you ever had that feeling where you see something and there's just something about it that didn't seem right to you? Well, that was the situation with this bird. And so I'm just going to propose to the audience. You've probably heard of mimicry in animals. I mean, there's a number of animals out there that can mimic things. You've got insects and snakes, and probably one of the most famous ones is an octopus. It can change its shape at will, and that's the only animal we're really aware of that can change its shape like that. However, when we do a deep dive into these bird pictures, you might change your mind about that. So here's a zoom in of it, and if you look now, that left wing looks fairly normal, but look at this right wing. That just doesn't look right, does it? What the heck is that? So if that was a normal bird kind of flying away from me, there'd be the tail, the left wing, but that right wing just doesn't work. So we're going to study this closer, and I think I took 4 or 5 images of it, and we'll look at several of them. But they all have the same kind of characteristic where the left side looks kind of bird-like, but the right side has that, hammerhead. I mean, it kind of reminded me of a hammerhead on a hammerhead shark. It looks totally out of place. Or maybe the pot, if you've ever seen a winged tank on a small aircraft, they look kind of like that. So again, here are the original images. But then when you zoom in, it stops looking like a bird and it starts looking like something totally different. Now, what that something is, I just don't know, but we're going to study this in detail. Look at the tail there. So it's interesting. And I don't know quite what to say, but they all have that characteristic kind of hammerhead on one side instead of a wing. And that was the one thing that just stood out on every one of these pictures. They all look the same. You zoom in, at first they look like a bird, right? Then when you zoom in further, wow, just not bird-like. There's things about it that just do not look bird-like at all. That hammerhead, and then this one you can even see, almost looks like something on the tail, and the body looks like kind of 2 circles right here. So that almost looks more plane-like than bird-like. So we're going to do a deep dive now, and I've done this on many of my videos, but I want you to really get a good look. So here's this first one that we looked at. Now look at that, what I'm calling the hammerhead there. It's not just the hammer. When I really zoom in close, take a close look at this thing and how it's attached to the body. And you got this kind of wedge shape here with something right there. But then look at this, I don't know what that is. I mean, what is this right here? Look at that. Almost, I don't know. What is that right there? Very, very unusual. And then just look at these other things on it. What is that right there? Does that look bird-like to you? I'm just looking at so many things on this one that look strange to me. I just don't know. What do y'all think about these? What does it look like to you? And I know there'll be some people that say, Matt, that's just a bird. What are you talking about? Well, I would argue as I zoom in on these, deep dive on them, how do you explain that? Birds don't look like that. I have photographed thousands of birds of all types. The wings don't look like that. And then when you really zoom in, look at this image. that almost looks like like a pipe instead of a tail. Now, this I just can't get away with. That one there looks almost like a pylon or a pipe with a hole in the end. And if you look really closely at this image, now that doesn't look as jagged as the one before, but what are these things sticking down? There's something there kind of protruding down, and then there's something on the other side as well. Oh, yeah. So, and what's this color right here? What is that? Does this look like a bird to you? I would just ask people, can you be objective? Your mind tells you it has to be a bird, therefore it is a bird. Just like people think there's no such thing as UFOs, therefore that can't be one. But the image is the image. It's not tampered with. It's just a deep zoom of the actual photographs, and they all had the same thing. If it was some kind of anomaly, why would it be in 5 or 6 pictures in a row? So, again, I can do this all day long. Everyone we look at is going to have these similar characteristics. But then again, they all look a little bit different. Look at this one, for example. You've got that hammerhead like the others, but the tail doesn't have that kind of hole in the end. It looks more slender in this one. But the thing about this one that really jumps out at me is look at these. It almost looks like 2 giant ports. Almost like if you've looked at a jet aircraft with a dual engine, it kind of reminds me of the engines of aircraft. Boy. So how can this just be a bird? That's the question I would ask everybody. And this isn't all I photographed today. If I say this, it just makes it seem like it's not real. I'm seeing a ton of them. I photographed 5 or 6 today. And I'll do a future video, but here's kind of my deepest dive of this, just to remind y'all, hey, keep watching those skies, because honestly, the answers we're looking for are up there, but you've got to have an open mind and be willing to accept the truth. So this is Matt for UFOs Above Us. Have a great Memorial Day. Keep watching those skies.